Hello, BookTube. This is Aaron from Aaron Read a Book or Aaron Read a Book. Doing a Friday reads. I've not done a Friday reads in a while, so there's quite a lot to get through. I've only bought one. Well, not even bought. I've only acquired one book since I last did one, and that was in my bin area where we go down and throw our bins. Sometimes people leave things there, and once I got a really good bookshelf there that's in my living room, and the other day I went down and there were some books in there. Some of them were about the history of the war in Afghanistan, and there were some religious books as well, but there was also this sort of one science fiction book that looks quite cool, Dark Eden by Chris Beckett. Yeah, and this won the Arthur C. Clarke Award in 2013, and it sounds like a sort of interesting futuristic dystopia sort of book about some people who live in sort of a place called Eden, which is like a shelter which is two marooned explorers. So there's like 532 descendants of these two explorers. So that sounds interesting. Reading wise, I've finished a few things. I've most recently finished James by Percival Everett, and this was a library hold that I put on hold ages ago. I think I was like 45th in line or something ridiculous, and it came in, and I'm normally terrible with holds. I'll normally put something on hold, and then by the time it comes round I don't want to read it, but this one has such a big queue that I thought I'd better read it now. And it surprised me in a way, because I thought, because it's won so many prizes and things, I thought it would have quite flowery language or something, but it actually is he's actually a very easy to read author, and is not very flowery prose at all. It's quite simple, and I'm sure everyone's seen lots of reviews of James, and I did really enjoy it, but it was a strange book. I think I'm one of the only people I've seen who hasn't read Huck Finn and has read it as well, and a lot of people are saying you don't need to read Huck Finn, and in a way you don't, because I still enjoyed this book, but I did think I missed out on a lot because I hadn't. It has a very weird plot. There's lots of weird shifts in the plot, and I think that would be more understandable if I knew where he was trying to connect the story to Huck Finn. So, but not only was it a strange jump around sort of story, it also jumped around quite a lot in tone and characters as well, and it was odd. And I think normally that wouldn't work, but it kind of works in James, because it is just such a strange book. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as most people did, though. I thought the character of James himself was, because he was so inconsistent, and that is obviously part of the story, that there's this secret world of the slaves that they hide from white people, but also the tonal shifts made it slightly difficult for me to completely enjoy the book, but I did enjoy it enough that I would read more Percival Everett. And I think because this is a book inside a book, I would like to see him write something. Well, he's written loads of books, but I would like to read something where he has complete control over the entire world. And his book plots generally sound interesting to me, and I have seen that film American Fiction, which is based on one of his books, and I loved that film, and I didn't think I was going to like it, and I ended up really liking it. So I'd like to read the book of that, maybe, or The Trees. But yeah, an enjoyable read. Didn't blow me away. Most books that win all the prizes always end up slightly disappointing you, but I'm glad I read it. Before that, I read. This is part of my reading books released in 2025 project. I accidentally read 2 books released in 2025 this month, but this one was The Fourth Consort by Edward Ashton, and he is best known for his story Mickey 7, which became the film Mickey 17 recently. And I really enjoyed this book. It's got a bit of what's his name, the Martian, Andy Weir. It's got a bit of Andy Weir, or what I call Mark Watnification, which is the character's like a jokey American style humour, which can get a bit annoying if it's done too much. But I do think Edward Ashton's a better writer than Andy Weir, and the characters are slightly deeper in this. He does the backstory of the character quite well, and it also has an element of Ursula K. Le Guin in the storyline, but he's not as good a writer as Ursula K. Le Guin. So the basic storyline of this is, like in Le Guin's Hainish cycle, the main character, I've forgotten his name already, Dalton Greaves, is like an envoy who's sent to an alien planet to try and bring this new planet into what's it called, the Unity, a group of planets run by a race that they call the Snails, which because they kind of represent snails. And he gets kind of marooned on the planet with one other human, and he's known as their sort of ground pounder, the guy that they send in, which is a bit of a dangerous job. And there's this the you can see in here the race that he's visiting are like a kind of insect hive, and they're like apex predators, and they think of him as a soft, sort of weak person. At the same time, there's another envoy from their rival kind of galactic confederation called the what are they called, the Assembly, and he's never actually met anyone from the Assembly before, and they're much more like the hive people. They're like they're insecty as well, and he calls them the Stickmen, and they're like he's heard lots of sort of bogeyman stories about them, and not everything is as it seems in this, and it's an interesting kind of political elements to it, like there would be in the Gwyn's Hainish cycle. And the reason it's called the Fourth Consort is because he is made a consort of the Queen of the Hive. The fourth consort, the first consort has been eaten, and the other 2 consorts are like comedy characters who are always making fun of him, which is quite funny. So overall, good writing, funny, kind of like an almost better Andy Weir. So again, I would read more Edward Ashton books if I come across them, and a great start to my 2025 project, or my read books published this year project. Before that, I reread Mansfield Park, and the first time I read Mansfield Park, I'm on my second way around Austen at the moment, so I've reread Pride and Prejudice, Persuasion, Emma, and now this. And the first time I read the 6 main novels, this was my second favourite, I think, and this time round it's been relegated down to my least favourite so far, but I still have Sense and Sensibility and Northanger Abbey to reread, so we'll see how it comes out in the end. But it does remain a very interesting book in Austen's collection, because it's so different to the others, I still really like Fanny Price as a character, and I like having a heroine that is quiet and kind of underappreciated. But I do, this time around, I didn't think Edmund was as interesting. He seems just a bit of a boring prude. A lot of the prudishness that you don't understand in this book, like for me, is when they're trying to put that play on and they all think, and Fanny and Edmund think it's so terrible. I think that the bad characters in this are not as good as the bad characters in other books, and by bad characters I mean like her auntie, is it? I forget her name. I think it might be Norris. She's just annoying and not in a funny way, I think. But the Crawfords are great characters, and that's really enjoyable. So, like all Austen, it's still a 5-star brilliant read, but I found it slightly harder going this time. I think the first half of the novel was a bit slow compared to most Austen, and in the second half it picks up and it's really good. The other book I finished was Dreaming the Serpent Spear, which is the last book in the Boudica series. Won't talk about this too much because I've talked about it lots of times, and it's a 4-book series and this is the 4th book. I would say she nails the ending though. I think this is a great series and you won't be disappointed by the end of it, and as historical fiction goes, it's one of my favourites that I've ever read, so highly recommend. I also finished my audiobook, which was I Love You Bye, Rambles on DIY TV Rockstars, Kids and Mums by Adam Buxton. This is a book by a comedian in the UK who I don't think he's known outside the UK, apart from maybe some appearances in films. But I used to love his TV show, The Adam and Joe Show, and I loved his radio show as well. And this was kind of just stories about the making of those, and his relationship with Joe Cornish, and his podcast and stuff, and his relationship with bands like Travis and Radiohead. And it was again another really enjoyable. I read his previous memoir as well, which was more about the death of his father. But this was really enjoyable. If you're an Adam Buxton fan, I recommend it. If you're not an Adam Buxton fan, probably not worth listening to. What I'm reading now is my audiobook is Glorious Exploits by Ferdy Lennon, and it's read by Ferdy Lennon in the audiobook. This has been very popular on BookTube recently, and it's fun so far. I can see why it's popular. What I do find slightly strange about it is, because the audiobook is read by, because it's an Irish book and it's read by an Irish author, it's kind of weird experiencing the ancient world through an Irish accent, but it's also doesn't make sense, because if I read an ancient book in my head, I'm reading in an English accent, and they obviously didn't speak in English accents. So Irish accent is no different a level of wrong, but it just feels slightly strange to me, because you can't help but picture kind of Irish lads, the two main characters who are putting on a play, Medea, in these for Athenians who are held captured in the town. But it's enjoyable so far. I'm not that far in, so I'll let you know how that goes. I'm also, my latest body read, I've actually just on the last few pages now of a reread of The Light Years, the first book in the Casley Chronicles, which is one of my favourite ever book series, and I've been rereading this with Joe Smith and Sarah from Your True Shelf, and it's been fun. It's been fun reading it with other people, and I think Sarah and Joe are both really liking it as well, which is good. And it's a sort of strange, on rereading it, I'd kind of forgotten how funny the children are in it, and I remember that she writes children really well. But it's this kind of slow moving episodic kind of book. So it's an interesting reread because I remember it as a whole series. It is one of those series where you finish the first book and you instantly want to read the second one because it's just a continuation of the lives of this massive family. But very much enjoying it on my reread. And the other thing I've just picked up is Hinton Mysteries: A Fine Balance, which has been... I've had this book quite a while, but yeah, it's been sat on my shelves for a while. And this is... I actually kind of don't know what it's about, really, because I've tried not to look at up stuff because I've seen a few people calling it devastating and I kind of don't even want to know if something's devastating, but so far it's already been quite sad. So and it's about the lives of, well, it's about the life of an Indian woman, Parsi Indian, it's sort of in the mid 1970s India, but yeah, so far so good. I really like the writing. It's a strange thing that this author hasn't written a book in 22 years, and it's not really been heard of again after being so successful. So I wonder if there's other authors that have done like that. I know Marilyn Robinson, there was like 26 years or something between Housekeeping and Gilead, so maybe he'll reappear. We'll see. But if you are a big fan of this book, which everyone seems to be, let me know down in the comments. And I can see my storage on my phone is running out, so I will say goodbye. Have a good one, BookTube. Bye.